What is going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at PrizePicks and GameTime. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth, fresh off the Patriots Week 3 defeat to the Pittsburgh Steelers 21-14. Barth, a winnable game. There was some encouraging stuff that we'll talk about, but you have to start with the turnovers. 5 total turnovers. 4 fumbles, an interception by Drake Maye, 2 of them coming inside the Pittsburgh Steelers 2-yard line, right? So you lose by a touchdown and you had 2 turnovers at the 2-yard line there. Tough way to go down, but that's clearly not a winning formula, and you kind of saw that, and they shoot themselves in the foot and waste a winnable game there on Sunday.
Yeah, it's funny. When I did the pod with David Andrews yesterday, which people can check out on the Sports Hub YouTube page or Patriots Hub podcast, or get your podcast, he sat down and we were just kind of like, we do this pod in 30 seconds. Don't turn the ball over 5 times. And in one sense, that's as much of a breakdown as you need of this game. That's what went wrong. But obviously there's more to it, and we'll dig a little deeper into it. But you're right. It's this weird crossroads of it's both frustrating and encouraging, because I think we saw a lot of signs on both sides of the ball, things we were looking to see, things we were hoping to see. To be within a score, frankly, down, with 5 turnovers, I think speaks to how well they played at times. I'll give you the number here, Brian. I pulled this up on Pro Football Reference after the game, and there's a lot of qualifiers on here, so I apologize if this might be a little off, but if I put the numbers in correctly, which I think I did, I ran it a couple times. Teams 2, this is since the merger, outgained their opponent by at least 150 yards, outsnapped their opponent by at least 20 plays, convert at least 35% of their third downs, 75% of their fourth downs. And the Patriots were a little higher on some of these numbers. I just use round numbers to make it easier. So outgained by 150, outsnapped by 20, 35% on third down, 75% on fourth down, punt at most one time, 35-2 since the merger. First such loss in the NFL since 2012. Oddly enough, the Cowboys lost that game somehow, only turning the ball over once. Not really sure how that happened, but yeah, this was a pretty rare, in terms of how lopsided the game was, a pretty rare sort of loss for the Patriots.
Definitely. But there was some encouraging stuff we'll get into. But I guess, we started, but more on these turnovers, of course, because this was the storyline. Like, we started a lot of shows last year talking about the coaching staff, and, because there was this level of knucklehead play a lot, and there were still 7 penalties Sunday to go along with the turnovers. Are you a little disappointed, I guess, with, because you assume you hire Mike Vrabel, a more experienced coaching staff, this stuff was going to kind of get buttoned up. So are you a little disappointed with this start through 3 weeks in terms of that type of stuff? Or is this, he's still establishing his new program, a lot of new players, which is tough to kind of gel early, a lot of young players too. Like, where are you kind of at with that sort of sense with the coaching staff through 3 weeks and this type of, play?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of it's obviously on the coaching. I think I don't know that this is like last year. A lot of what they were doing schematically didn't make sense. And I'll say this to the higher turnover number. I saw people pick, this year, last year, 6 turnovers through 3 games. This year, just 1 through 3 games last year. Last year, they had a veteran quarterback who the whole thing was he was being too conservative. If you look at the yards per play or whatever, that's way up compared to last year. So some of that is just a style of play thing. I think what they're doing strategically makes sense. If I put the turnover issues on the coaching staff to any extent in this game, and I think it's a very fair second guess, is why Rhamondre Stevenson was back on the field for that second fumble. And, if you want to go to the play calling it at the end of the first half and why they threw the ball 3 times, I don't know that, that interception Drake Maye threw. I don't hate throwing once or twice when you're down there. Like, you should vary it up. You shouldn't run 3 times or throw 3 times. That interception Drake Maye threw could just have easily as happened on first down. And then, we don't even have the conversation about run or pass. So I think that's a coaching critique. However much you want to relate that to the turnovers, I think we could debate. But part of the nature of how they're playing is they're going to turn the ball over a little more. Now, look, Sunday was excessive. You can't have that. But as far as the coaching goes in that sense, I think really the big second guess is putting Rhamondre Stevenson back on the field, given his fumbling history.
So that takes me to the next point here, because they have a tough decision kind of to make with Rhamondre Stevenson right now. He's got 9 fumbles in his last 18 games, obviously a league high 7 fumbles last year, and then his first 2 on Sunday. Vrabel said after the game, we need him. I do think he has been their best running back, and that kind of complicates this situation, right? Like, you can't just turn this thing over to TreVeyon Henderson. As much as we want, his speed and that excitement, and I still think TreVeyon Henderson has a ton of talent and potential, like some nerd stats that Barth probably doesn't like because the word expected is in there. Like, he's 30.
Well, I think this is a great example of why they are bad, why relying on those numbers too much is bad. Because let me guess, they were expected to win that game by a lot.
No, this is TreVeyon Henderson stat.
Okay. All
which I think kind of backs up, like, watching him run the ball. Like, it feels like remember the run in the preseason against the Vikings? Like, he was very patient, and then he explodes through, finds this crease, and he scores a touchdown. Doesn't feel like he's doing that right now. It feels like he's just running towards contact, and the game is a little fast, and he's minus 36 rushing yards over expected, which out of 40 qualified backs is 34th in football. And if you take that in attempts, he's minus 2 per attempt, which is dead last among 40 qualified backs. So I don't think this is as easy enough as this, like, let's unleash. I've seen that a lot. Let's unleash TreVeyon Henderson, because there's the issues in pass pro too. It just seems he's playing like a rookie right now. And I don't think that has anything to do with his long-term outlook. Like, I still think TreVeyon Henderson is going to be a really good player, probably down the line this season. He's going to be a big piece for this offense, but Rhamondre Stevenson has been their best back, but with 2 fumbles and the fumble history last year, like, can they just bench him and go away from him moving forward with Gibson, who also fumbled, and Henderson, who, as I just said, has been struggling early on in his rookie year?
Look, it's tricky. And you referenced it there when Mike Vrabel and Drake Maye come out after the game and say, we need him. I think that's correct. This offense is at its best. We saw it last week in Miami. Even this game, that drive they have before the half where they go 90-something yards in 8 minutes and ultimately it ends with an interception, but they convert 3 3rd and 10 or longers on that drive, or they convert 2 3rd and 10 or longers, and they had a 3rd and 12 that Rhamondre picks up 11 on and then picks up the 4th down, and then he picked up another 3rd and long as well. He was really good on that drive. He's an explosive player. So I do think it's correct to say we do need him. Now, he also can't be fumbling like this. And so you hit this crossroads of what do? The ball security has to be better. How much leash are you going to have him work on that in games when you're turning the ball over? But to your point, Antonio Gibson, who I think has been solid, but he fumbled. And TreVeyon Henderson just doesn't look 100% ready for a major role. He's looked good in the pass game. As a pass catcher, I should say. The pass blocking still is not quite there. But, I mean, he led them in touches. And he led them in touches, averaging 3.3 yards per touch. So it's not even that the production's not there. He had 14 touches. I don't think anybody else had more than 10. How much more do you want to give him the football? He can't be a 20, 25 touch a game player. That's not sustainable for most players in the modern NFL, short of a guy like Derrick Henry. That's just not a realistic way to run an offense. So they're lacking that big play threat. There's another, we can talk about what you do at receiver and should somebody get more snaps at receiver, we can get to that, but it's not as easy as just bench Rhamondre Stevenson, because the offense is stagnant when he's not on the field. Stagnant's obviously better than turning the ball over, but you really have to nickel and dime your way. There's no room for error. They need a little bit of push. They need a little bit of pop from that group. And they have 8 plays of 20 plus yards this year. He has 3 of them. He is almost half. So it's kind of hard to just take that guy off the field entirely.
Yeah, and he's their only running back to force more than 2 missed tackles. He's at 7 or 8, I believe the final count is, through 3 weeks. So he is playing like their best back. And even after the fumble issues yesterday, he's on the field on 3rd down because he's most trustworthy in pass pro right now, which, again, you hope Henderson he was good at that in Ohio State. Gave up a pressure against the Steelers, but he did bounce back later and have a good rep in pass pro. So, again, nothing against the long-term future outlook of TreVeyon Henderson here. I think he's immensely talented and is going to play a big role in this offense. He's looking like a rookie right now. And so I don't think you can just throw him a boatload of touches, as you said, and it's not sustainable. You saw that at Ohio State. They needed Quinshon Judkins in there last year to run between the tackles, take some of that downhill work, and then TreVeyon Henderson got to play in space. and that worked really well. So maybe that opens the door for like Antonio Gibson in that early down role. And then Henderson can, still play off of him if you want to limit Rhamondre's snaps going against Carolina next week. But it is a really difficult kind of decision right now for Mike Vrabel, who's, trying to establish this culture, and you have a guy who's putting the football on the ground a lot and moving forward. I have seen a lot of people recommend or on board of cutting Rhamondre Stevenson. I'm not there yet. I assume you're not there yet either, right?
Okay. They have an open roster spot. Would I consider bringing in a back this week and give somebody? You can't have two backs on the roster. You just need somebody. So you want to bring in another back this week and add somebody to the rotation and lessen the workload. And then if it continues, you have the next guy who's already in. Like maybe I wouldn't be opposed to adding another running back right now. You can't cut Stevenson. And I just want to hammer this home again, not to pick on Charles here, who commented, find a way to get Henderson the ball. I can't stress this enough. He led the team in touches in that game. Like even on the year, he's second on the team in touches. He's 2 behind Rhamondre Stevenson. Right. If it feels like he hasn't gotten the ball, it's because he's not making an impact when he has it. I can't giving Henderson the ball more just on pure volume is not the answer. If you want to find different ways to use him, that might be it. He's getting the ball as much as he realistically should be getting it. He's, again, 3.3 yards per touch. And he was actually solid as a receiver in this game. I think I have it right here, 3 catches for 19 yards is okay. Carried the ball 11 times for 28 yards. That's not going to do it. And some of that's on the offensive line. Some of that's on him. You really can't give him the ball anymore than you're giving it to him at this point. You're going to become predictable. You're going to become now it's every time he's on. He was on the field he had 14 touches. I think he was only on the field for like 21 plays. So it's already kind of getting to the point where when he's on the field, he's getting the ball. You can't go too heavy to where it becomes, hey, this guy's on the field. He's getting the ball, keying on him. Like you can't you start giving the ball anymore and you're probably going to get towards that.
Yep. I want to talk about, you hinted at the receivers. I want to talk about them, their games Sunday, and maybe some potential shakeup in that room moving forward. But before we do that, we also got to talk about our wonderful friends over at PrizePicks. Barth, you and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right and simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Maybe the Patriots running backs will be tricky this week, but Travion Henderson, Rhamondre Stevenson, and Antonio Gibson are options in your lineup. Drake Maye, Stephon Diggs, all those guys. Or go to the whole league. Josh Allen, more or less in 270 pass yards. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, throw all those guys in. Or Bruins tonight, preseason hockey. If you're real sicko and want to go PrizePicks for some Bruins preseason hockey, you can go to that. Tons of different sports options on PrizePicks as well. So make sure you guys download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup over on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. All right. Going to this receiver room. Quiet day for the whole group, really, against Pittsburgh. It was a lot of action to the running backs and the tight ends, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper in the passing game. So not a lot of work as a whole for the wide receivers. But this Drake Maye, Demario Douglas connection was good in the summer, just hasn't translated to the regular season here. And I don't know. It just feels like bad luck. Like the height, Maye overthrows him a couple times. He throws behind him on that last drive. They had that big, one in the flat where Maye kind of short-armed them, and Douglas is also trailing upfield, which could have been a huge play. And then, of course, you have the final 4th down play where Pop catches it, but then kind of goes backwards instead of knifing upfield, and then, you lose the game there. So just that connection hasn't translated to the regular season for whatever feels like a lot of different reasons right now, bad luck just being one of it. But what do you kind of do? Are you trying to work through this, or is it at the point where you might start to kind of limit Pop Douglas's snaps and look elsewhere in that wide receiver room?
Yeah, I don't think you bench them all together, but I think you start trying to see what some other guys can do in that role. And look, I've been as big a supporter of Pop Douglas as anybody. I still think he's a solid NFL player. As much as people want to point out, oh, he's not tough enough to go over the middle, he's not big enough. I just think him and Maye, the chemistry's not there. The timing's not there. And you need that to work some of these routes that he's running. So, Kyle Williams missed some time in the summer, and maybe that set him back. I've seen a lot of people point out Efton Chisholm, and I'll say it again, because the reason I was so big on Pop was the speed element that he brings, they didn't have. And I wanted them to run Pop vertically more than they did. And they really didn't do a ton of that. Get Kyle Williams on the field, get him going vertically, get that speed element. I know people are excited about Efton Chisholm. He's more in that role that Stephon Diggs is in right now. It's a different role. And Diggs has been fine. He hasn't been great, but he's been fine. And you remember he's still coming off the ACL. So I think it's time to see what Kyle Williams can do a little bit more. He should be caught up after the time he missed in the summer. And he was the second best yards after catch wide receiver in the country last year. He was the best among all players that were in the draft. It's time to get him going, to me. Like, you took this guy in the third round. You got to give him a shot eventually. I understand maybe, again, he missed some time at the end of the summer, very crucial weeks, because he got hurt in that Minnesota game. He should be caught up by now. I think it's time to see if they can get him going.
I'm with you. I do wonder if maybe they try Diggs in more of like that slot role that Pop Douglas is holding now, because bigger target, he played kind of well in that role in Houston. Get him the ball more, like high volume, and then Kyle Williams can fill in maybe for Diggs's role, or Booty moves inside, and Kyle Williams, X has that kind of versatility to bring some of that juice that you would then be taking off the field with Pop Douglas. You get some juice, get some vertical speed in an element, because they haven't really been pushing the ball downfield at all. And a lot of that is just they don't have the talent at wide receiver to do that. So Kyle Williams is kind of got like that guy to maybe open this thing up a little bit and go outside. So that would probably be my first try of kind of reconfiguring this room. And then if that still doesn't work, then maybe look to Efton Chisholm, because you are taking a lot of speed off the field, but maybe that's just where this group is at. And you get possession receivers for Drake Maye. Like, I would have guessed Chisholm would have got that last yard on the last play. And maybe that's just kind of like, okay, this is where we're at. We need to get these possession guys out there and just get.
I don't think you want to make the change just off one play. And it's bad play by Pop. Like, don't get me wrong. You got to fall forward. It's about more than one catch. You need more out of that role beyond that one play. And I think Kyle Williams gives them more of what they're lacking on offense right now than Efton Chisholm does.
I'm with you. Yeah, I would try to make my top three kind of Booty, Diggs, Kyle Williams. Matt Collins, we know, is going to have a role, with all the 12 personnel they want to run, the two receivers, blocking, and things like that. So that would.
How do you feel about how much 12 they're running?
I don't love it, but it's because, again, it's just not very explosive, right? With Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, and Matt Collins, and Kayshon Boutte is usually that fourth or that second receiver. So that's just not a lot of speed at all. Now, maybe if you get Kyle Williams out there, that would help a little bit better, but I don't love how much 12 they're running.
I get they want to establish the run and they're struggling to run the ball right now, but I wonder if they start spreading it out a little bit moving forward.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Although I do think, and this is maybe a positive from Sunday, again, like a good game plan from Josh McDaniels. Like, you saw the moving pockets again, a lot of motion again. Yeah. And I do think, even though they don't have a lot of those explosive playmakers and they're running in a lot of 12, like, there are a good amount of receivers open for Drake Maye. And now just, the ball doesn't always get there, whether he's spraying it or pressure or whatever it may be. But I do think, in a positive sense, that was another good kind of game plan for Josh McDaniels. And Drake Maye largely looked good outside of the turnovers, which are a huge part of his game. We've discussed so much going back for last year. Like, you can't have the turnovers. You have to cut down on those. But for large part, I think, big picture wise, that McDaniels and Maye pairing has like good back-to-back starts, good showing right there. And that builds some positive momentum going forward, I'd say.
Yeah, I think they're starting to click.
Yeah. So, anything else on the offensive side of football? Those are kind of the big ones.
Not a great game for the offensive line.
Yeah.
First kind of rough game for Will Campbell. Yeah, I think across the board, offensive line, Campbell himself, like, that was an average game for the offensive line last year. There's an average game for Will Campbell for Vidarian Lowe last year at left tackle. So if it's the worst game he plays, if it's the worst game they play, I think you chalk that up as a win, and overall they'll have had a pretty good offensive line. It is, I think, worth noting they were sliding away from Campbell more in this game than they have in others. I think they wanted to give help on TJ Watt. Nick Herbig just he had Campbell beat. He had that outside in move going and things like that. Drake Maye didn't help them a ton. I think there were some times, like you look at the strip sack, he's in the pocket for 6 seconds. I'm not against him holding the ball that long, like obviously not all the time, but like he's going to want to try to extend and make plays. Then you got to extend the play. You got to get out of the pocket. You can't sit in that spot for 6 seconds and expect your offensive line to hold up. You got to move around a little bit and bail them out. So not the best performance from the offensive line, but where they were the first 2 games, I think you maybe chalk it up to a rough day and let's see if they can bounce back this week.
Yeah, that strip sack was classic, like doing too much with it. But I do think there were other times too he worked his way into pressure. That one that was a dropped interception by Pittsburgh that Hunter Henry fell over the illegal contact. Like he kind of runs himself right into TJ Watt on that one and works his way into pressure. But Herbig, I thought that was going to be a tough matchup for Campbell going in with the speed, and he got him a couple times and then, worked that outside inside move, which we saw him get beat. So hopefully that's just kind of a learning moment for Will Campbell and he can get better moving forward. Him and Jared Wilson also got beat on kind of a long stunt by Cam Hayward. So hope that gets better moving forward there. But a lot of pressure, blitzes from Pittsburgh as well. So that had a lot to do with the pressure as well. But let's jump over to the defense very quickly before we do that. Game Time tickets is the best place to get your tickets this football season to college, NFL, any of that action. Also, again, preseason hockey back, basketball right around the corner, Red Sox coming down the wire. Any of your tickets, make sure you head over to Game Time, and the Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. It's incredibly easy to use. And the Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price, plus fees are always included. So what you see is what you pay. Patriots home again at Gillette Stadium this weekend. They got to start winning at Gillette Stadium. And if you want to go, you can go to the Game Time app. $110 is the cheapest get in right now on the Game Time app. Or you can fire up a great super deal, move down to the lower level, $200 right behind the end zone. Great spot there. About $250 around the 50-yard line. So even great spot there. Plenty of great seats on the Game Time app, and prices, of course, will go down the closer we get to kickoff. So take the guesswork out of buying your football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right. Let's wrap this up with some defense talk against Aaron Rodgers. Barth, what do you think of Aaron Rodgers, just first off? Because he looks cooked, I would say.
I mean, he kind of looks cooked, but that last throw is great. I mean, he can still, I think when he wants to, they stayed in it long enough that I think he went out there for the last drive and was like, all right, let's go win it. The arm talent's still there. He can't move. But when he needs to make a throw, I think he can still make a throw.
The touchdown over Carlton Davis was pretty nice too. Those were just hand delivering 2 balls right in the end zone to your receiver when you needed them the most. But
PFF has him as the second worst quarterback in the NFL,
ahead of Bo Nix, right?
That's
the worst quarterback in football.
That's right, the worst quarterback in football.
Who could have seen that coming?
Who could have seen that? Well, let's not talk about who the third worst is, but who could have seen that coming? 5th worst is JJ McCarthy. I'll throw that out there.
Does the third worst happen to be a certain lefty, maybe, who wears a do-rag?
Yep. There's still time on that one. I'm not making sweeping claims about any of them except Bo Nix.
Yeah, and this is Penix still. This is what, his 5th career start,
something like that. Yeah,
barely played last year. So
I'm not going to take a victory lap on JJ McCarthy yet. I'm going to ask people to not take a victory lap on Michael Penix yet. I will take the victory lap on Bo Nix, because he's like 26 years old at this point, and there's not much room for him to get better.
Yep. But just this Steelers matchup, the tackling still wasn't great. I think they missed like 23% of their tackles, even though like it was a better game for Robert Spillane. The run defense, they didn't give up 100 yards, but they kind of got gashed early on the ground by Jalen Warren. So kind of came out with like those 2 deep safeties, which I thought was a weird game plan because Rodgers was just getting the ball out very quickly, and then you got gashed on the ground and early 14-0 deficit. But then they kind of responded well, like one yard in the third quarter. Didn't give up any other points until late there. So what did you just kind of think as a whole of this defensive effort against Pittsburgh there?
So I actually thought the tackling was a little bit better. The big thing, so one, I think Spillane was better, and he missed a big tackle late, but I think overall he was a better player in this game, and you see what the defense can do when he's on. Some of their missed tackles too, like I go back to when Kyrus Tong was really good in this game, and there was a play late when the Steelers are trying to run the clock out where he gets right through the line, and Joshua Farmer, I think it was Joshua Farmer, whoever's next to him, also gets right through the line, and like Tonga can see that, and he goes to make a big hit, try to force a turnover, misses, but there's a couple guys right there to clean it up that like he knew he had a cleanup crew. I don't like, that's fine. Like if you're missing tackles in that context, obviously you want the first guy to bring him down, but especially an aggressive defense like this, some coaches, the coaching point is if there is a swarm coming to the ball and you're the first guy in, get a little aggressive, go for the ball, go for the big hit, and your teammates will clean it up. Now, if you're one-on-one in the open field, you obviously don't want to take that approach. And that's what happened last week at times against Miami. And I'm not saying there were none of those missed tackles in this game. There were certainly some, but I think they did a better job swarming to the ball, better job with the cleanup crew. It's not the missed tackles inherently that hurt. It's you blow a tackle and a guy picks up 5, 6, 7 yards he wouldn't have otherwise had. And it felt like their missed tackles in this game were simply the first guy trying to make a play and the rest of the defense swarming the football and cleaning it up. And there wasn't really a ton of yardage gained off of it. So not perfect, but I actually thought it was a pretty significant step in the right direction tackling wise, because again, they weren't surrendering the yardage, which is all I really care about. If it takes second guy to bring him down, but he doesn't gain any extra yards, it doesn't make that much of a difference to me, really. Again, you want the first guy to bring him down, but that's not something that I'm going to lose sleep over. And I don't think that that's the biggest issue.
Yeah. And Tonga, as you said, had a couple of those where it's like, you're getting penetration and it ultimately leads to a tackle for loss or, a no yard gain. But like Tonga isn't necessarily the one bringing that guy down. It's Milton Williams or Farmer or someone else coming to play cleanup. So it ultimately is a good play, even though it does count for a missed tackle. But I thought, Tonga played really well. He had a couple of those, another like bull rush pressure, drew a hold. So he's been very impressive, after a strong summer. The one guy who I say the missed tackles, it was a negative impact. Was Christian Ellis again?
Correct. Yeah, he had a couple really bad ones. That again were those ones where he's surrendering yards.
Yeah, and then they benched him, right? Jack Gibbons came in at linebacker, so I thought Gibbons was like fine in replacement, but I'm still like all of a sudden like not. I shouldn't say all of a sudden because we've talked about this for a couple of weeks now. Like Jelani Tavai eligible to come off IR after next week. Like there could be a role for him early down on that second level, and then Alex Austin also got replaced in the secondary there after 2 early penalties. One of them I thought was kind of iffy, but Charles Woods comes in for him in the secondary. So still missing Christian Gonzalez opposite Carlton Davis there. Hope Christian Gonzalez is good to go this week, but that was kind of the big one in the secondary. Again, a lot of short, quick passes from Rodgers. So like he didn't really test the safeties or those corners much, but Alex Austin just continued to kind of struggle to start the year. And you saw Charles Woods replace him early against Pittsburgh there.
Yeah, I think with the secondary, some of those, and they were ticky-tack, but the hold on Alex Austin that erases the strip sack, the PI on Carlton Davis, like those are spots where if it's Christian Gonzalez in those spots, those penalties aren't happening. And it probably is Christian Gonzalez in both of those spots, given the way, well, I guess we don't know that for sure, but given the way he was used last year, I think there's a good chance it's him in those spots and he's probably not committing those penalties. So I think you're seeing how much they're missing him. Again, Charles Woods was fine. I thought last week was a bad matchup for Alex Austin. I thought this week he just didn't play well. Once they get Gonzalez back, that covers up a lot of those issues though.
Yep. All right. There wasn't much special teams in this one. So Barth, the last thing I wanted to ask you about, 5 fourth downs they went for. And the last one, they had to, they're losing the game. So really 4, an aggressive game call from Mike Vrabel and Stretch, his game management guy. What do you think of those decisions? And I mean, they're a math nerd team. Are you okay? Are you going to survive by this?
I mean, does the math really say to go for that one backed all the way up?
It did, yeah.
That's surprising. Well, the math always says, I've told you this. My conspiracy theory is like they don't actually run the numbers when they show it on the ESPN broadcast. They just put up something that says go, because I've never once in my life seen it say kick. I think it was one time I did, but it was like shortly after I did this rant for the first time on the air, and they must have just heard me.
So the one in, was it Vegas? Yeah, against Vegas in the opener when it was the 4th and 2, it said go, and then they got the penalty, and it was 4th and 7, and then that said punt kick. So they've been pretty lockstep with the math. I haven't gone back and checked
there's also some where it's like 47% to 46%. And
it's
you have to make a real football decision there.
That one on the 15-yard line was like kind of a coin flip, like one of those, but I think it did ultimately lean with go. So they've been pretty, again, like they've been pretty cut and dry with the math so far.
He's lucky that worked. Also, and the play call, like the backwards toss, and they got them with it twice, which is kind of nuts. They got them with the backwards toss twice on 4th and 1. I don't know how replicatable that is.
All Rhamondre. Like I thought Drake needed to maybe like hold that a little longer and go out, and then before he flipped it to kind of draw that linebacker in. But that was all Rhamondre, like making a guy miss.
Right. Which again, that's why it's tough to take him off the field entirely.
Yeah.
He gave the team a spark. It was a vote of confidence in the offense. So you see that, but I don't know about playing it that wild and loose every week. I mean, that if they don't get that, that's kind of the ball game. Steelers are going to score. I think they would have gone up 2 scores at that point, right? And
no, that was I think it was 14-0 at that point. Yeah.
So yes, they would have gone up 3 scores.
Yeah, 3.
And now you're really chasing. So don't love that decision. But I do like that they were good on 4th downs until that last one, and they even got him with the same play twice. The execution was there. I always say this. The math part, what I hate about the math in this context is it doesn't take into account what play you're going to call. And how do you feel about the play you're going to? How do you feel about the players involved in that? And I mean, I think you were there for this. I had this argument with Evan the other day about, if you install your 4th down play, so if you're installing it your 4th down, you probably feel pretty good about it. But there's things that happen during the game that can change that. Okay, well, the defense is sitting on this route that we didn't expect them to sit on all day, or, we really need our left tackle hold up here and he's had a rough day, or the play involves this player who's hurt and we don't feel as good about it with his backup in there. Like there's all these different variables that the fact they ran the toss play twice, they clearly felt good about it. So in that sense, if you feel really good about your play, go for it. If you don't feel good about your play, but the math's telling us to go, so I guess we got to call something like that. That's where you lose me. That's where, nope, because there's something in the equation, or there's something not in the equation that is a major factor here. So clearly they felt good about the plays they had. You see why they felt good about them. I think even the last 4 down, I don't think what they did was ultimately the design. That looked like a post-snap adjustment based off the blitz, which ideally on an important play, you want to make sure that even on your blitz adjustment, you're going to have something. They probably would have a pop fell forwards. That's more an execution thing. But I guess long story short, that's how I feel about it. If they feel good about the plays they're calling, I guess, let it rip, because obviously converting on those are big plays. But I don't think you can just run toss left every single time on 4th and 1 and assume you're going to get it. Like it's got to come with the play calling and the design and the execution.
They were decisive with them, and that's what I think the important thing is. Right? Like they felt good about the situation and the play call they had. So that's what I look for if they're gonna go. Like, be decisive with it. Don't be like, we have the punt team halfway out there. Actually, go back offense. Let's run it. Like, be decisive, and I think they were for pretty much all of them. And
you know what? To be fair, because this is where I'm coming from. If you let's say you have like a 4th and 3, right? Just a little bit longer. You're backed up. You have a play that you feel amazing about that's going to get you 4 yards. Even if the numbers say punt, go for it there. Like, to me, it's about how comfortable you are with the play call. That should be the major determining factor. How comfortable are you with the play call you have, the plays at your disposal, given what's going on in the game.
Yep. But they've been following the math so far. So they're nerds. Patriots are nerds. Stretch and Vrabel. That might be that Cleveland Browns rubbing off on Vrabel, all those analytics he learned last year. So any last thoughts? Wrap this up?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, so we will wrap this up there. Make sure everyone is locked on Patriots Press Pass. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you know when we'll go live. We'll be back later this week to preview the Carolina Panthers coming to town in a big one to avoid going 1-3. Also on Patriots Press Pass, I believe Taylor and Mike coming up later tonight, so you can stay tuned for that and tons of other content throughout the week there on Patriots Press Pass. And if you're on audio only, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, please subscribe there as well. You can also follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com for his Patriots coverage there. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for our Patriots coverage there as well. So thanks everyone for jumping on with us today, and we will see you guys later this week.